revved up she really is back there. So I just got to let you know, look out.
She's got something to say.
Yeah, she's got a wonderful message planned for today. So, like every Sunday, we'd like to get the service started with a song called "This Is the Day." And if you'd please rise and join in this, I would appreciate it.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister here. I want to welcome you here on this beautiful, cooler morning. I'm glad you guys are here joining this wonderful Sunday celebration with us. So the first announcement, probably the most important announcement, is we are having a big fundraiser this spring, and it's going to be a rummage sale, and that is April the 12th through the 13th. And so the reason why I'm telling you it's still a little ways off, but now is the time to start going through those closets and through those garages and every room in your house and bringing that stuff in. Right? So we wanted to bring it all in.
It's in my garage over the weekend.
Yeah. Scoping out what she had in there. But anyways, we'll see what we're going to get her to bring from her closet as well, her garage. But yeah, so it's really, really important. This is so please bring stuff in. We're also looking for volunteers. Kathy Rose back here in the back. Raise your hand, Kathy. Everybody knows Kathy Rose. So she is actually leading the project for us. You want to come up and come on up?
Oh, they're so cute. Yeah, we really do need those donations. And if you need help with that, if you need me to come to your house, load my car, I will do that. Come and get my information. I have it right here. So you can contact me. And I will help you clean out. Okay, we need those donations and those hands too. But right now, I really want to see those donations.
All right. Yes, bring them here. Bring them here, and we're going to be storing them here and getting ready. And then the week before, we'll be getting everything ready. All right. The next important announcement is Spot On spiritual practices on Thursday. So we're going to be continuing this into April. We're going to be continuing the 1:30 spiritual practice session. And then the last announcement is the reminder that there's a Qigong workshop and also class in April. And all of this information is available in the newsletter. So you can go to our website and see it on our website, or receive the newsletter. And if you're not receiving the newsletter, you can fill out a little card in the bookstore and drop it off in the offering boxes. And then we will add you to the newsletter so that way you receive all of the information that we have going on here at the center. So, all right, so that's all of our announcements. So let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles, and so it is. So just sit back, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So just take a deep breath as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
So as we rest in this quiet place in our spiritual home called West Valley Center for Spiritual Living, we recognize that divine spirit present right here and right now, knowing that this beautiful expression of life, this beautiful energy, this beautiful love, this beautiful creativity is in, through, and around us always. And we come together every Sunday to remember that truth, to remember the truth that we are always guided by that divine wisdom, that divine intelligence. We're always supported and loved by that divine spirit, and that we are that individualized expression of God, that each one of us shines our light, brings our gift that only we can bring to this planet. And I know that each one of us is expressing life fully in only the way that we know how to do it. And as we come together collectively, we are reminded of the beauty of life itself in each individual one of us. And so I know that this service unfolds with this divine right order, just like our life is unfolding in divine right order, always supported, always guided. We hear the beautiful music of the Bradfords and allow that harmony to just harmonize our souls and our hearts and allows ourselves to be open to experience the love that's not only present right here and right now, but as we radiate it out into the world. And I know that Reverend Karen speaks from her heart, open to that divine guidance as well, as she shares all of the beautiful wisdom as she learns and she grows us into expressing more life. And so I'm grateful for our teaching. I'm grateful for our West Valley Center for Spiritual Living family, and I'm grateful for life. So I know that everything is unfolding, everything is beautiful, and everything is God. So knowing this truth, we just simply bless this day, bless this service, and together we say, and so it is.
So this song we're going to do is by Willie Nelson, and it's called Energy Follows Thought. It's great deep meaning in it. Imagine what you want and get out of the way. Remember, energy follows thought. So be careful what you say.
Be careful what you ask for. Make sure it's what you really want. 'Cause your mind is made for thinking, and energy follows thought. Your mind is in control, even when you don't know. And if you let it idle, ain't no telling where it'll go.
Whenever you are sleeping and your dreams take you away, go on with your dreaming and listen to what they say.
And if you hear spirits talking, their wisdom can't be bought. Apply it to your thinking, and energy follows thought. Your mind is in control,
Even when you don't know.
and if you let it idle, ain't no telling where it'll go. Imagine what you want and get out of the way. Remember, energy follows thought, so be careful what you say. Remember, energy follows thought, so be careful what you say.
I just can't hear Willie singing that. Is there a side of him we don't know? He's a poet for sure, huh? At least he's a musician. Good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice. I'm so happy that you're here because I wrote a really cool talk. We're going to have a good time. I got something to say, and it's lovely to... Actually, I heard a baby again. That made my heart happy. Always happy to have a little baby noise in the audience. I am talking today about how energy follows thought, and the title of my message is An All New Energy. And when I read you this quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes, he wrote this in the book, This Thing Called You. When I read you this quote, be prepared to go, oh, Wow, because it's a good one. Ernest Holmes says, a new energy is being announced to the world. It is the creative power of thought which draws from a universal source. Oh, you're good. We didn't even rehearse. That was really good, you guys. I love that idea that a new energy is being announced. And the world really needs that right now. And those of us who are really spiritually grounded are really called at times like these to stand in that energetic truth of principle, of spiritual principle, the guiding force, the intelligence of the universe. So I was thinking how beautifully appropriate it is that a new energy is being announced, and we just turned a season on the calendar and have stepped into spring. Because spring is really a bold pronouncement on the part of nature that things come and change and shift, and so do we. And the difference between nature and humanity is that we have been given this gift of thought and of being able to set intentions and being able to direct our own consciousness and not just be a victim to all this stuff that happens in the world. So in spring, there's this evidence of shift and change. I read a quote from Rob Bell this week, and Rob Bell said that the earth is drenched with the presence of God. Oh, yes. I love those ideas, the way words can create images for us that allow us to feel the way the Spirit just permeates everything. And that was a quote I used. I want to say it was last week we were talking, maybe the week before, where Ernest Holmes said that this presence of God, it permeates everything, and it binds all things into this one complete whole. See, that's really important for us in this busy, active life that each of us is leading, that there's this energetic in the world that's always unfolding, and it can seem busy and chaotic. And yet, if we have a clarity around what we believe about creation, what we believe about God, almost every spiritual tradition has the idea of an omnipotent and all-powerful and all-knowing and an ever-present aspect of God that is the creation of all of life. And so as we align to that, but better than that, as we embody it, as we feel it, as we learn to witness it and see it around us, then something changes. We begin to be a part of that new energy that's announced every springtime. And the other element of spring is that this is when we bump into Easter. And all the faith traditions have their own way of having holy days. It's a season of great, deep spirituality, and we are 1 week away from Easter. So it's Palm Sunday, and it's the last 7 days of sacrifice and suffering. So pour it on out. If you need to suffer, do it now, because next Sunday it will be all about the risen consciousness. It will be all about the resurrection of the Christ is the Christ consciousness that we carry in our own thinking, and that which is the rhythm of spring that I like to think of as twitterpation. You know where that word comes from, twitterpate? Twitterpated? Where do you think that word comes from? Bambi! I see you all know. Is that because I talk about it every spring? I only mention it once a year, but I love to talk about twitterpation. The definition for, by the way, it originated in the script of that movie Bambi. And it's defined as an enjoyable disorder that's characterized by feelings of excitement, anticipation, high hopes, and interludes of giddiness. to be Twitter-pated is to be excited about life again. And I'll tell you something, I just noticed that the bees buzzing around my blooming citrus trees, they are Twitter-pated for certain, and we're glad of that because their presence guarantees we'll have fruit. And we like that, witnessing that rhythm of life and seeing in that way when we recognize that life is permeated, or as Rob Bell said, drenched in the presence of God, then we can see the whole thing going on. We no longer see just the bees in the tree or the smell, the bloom. We have those glimpses of seeing how it's all interconnected, and that's what oneness is. So when we have those moments of recognition, those higher thoughts bring all new energy. Or as Willie Nelson said, energy follows thought. Oh, you guys are good. They went blank. I looked at him, and then I'm actually going to talk about that in a minute. Why that happens? That's really interesting. That we gotta witness it. So I, for one, have been paying attention, sitting on the swing in my backyard because the weather's been inviting, and I've been listening to how Twitter-pated the birds are. I had lunch on a patio last week one day, and the grackles are so excited that they're chatty. You know how they actually sound like they're talking to me. But the grackles, with all their noise and excitement, could not drown out the tiny little birds that go tweet, tweet, tweet in the trees, and there's just a whole bunch of them. And so there's this delightful song that's unfolding, that's showing to us, demonstrating us that an all new energy is being announced. And when we pay attention, we then shift our own energy and bring a different kind of energy to the planet as well. They say that everything we see with our seeing eyes, our eyes that see physical form, everything we look at in the material world starts as a wave of energy. See, what you look at makes you think of something. And so everything you look at then stirs another thought in your mind. And so we're always creating, by what we are seeing, we are creating a new wave of energy. And our thoughts then don't just end there, but our thoughts send a vibration out into the universe. And so again, we see there's this wholeness. There's a connection in this oneness. And then we understand, especially in a teaching such as New Thought, we understand that the level of frequency that we are vibrating at, whatever we're thinking about, and how that impacts the atmosphere of our thought, the mood that we're in, the attitude we're carrying, that the universe, life itself, responds to us or corresponds to us at exactly that same level. And that, my friends, is why when you're in a bad mood, you don't see much purdy going on in the world. Because you got an energy frequency within you. If I'm grumpy and I go out in the world, I may not notice that I'm grumpy, but I'm wondering, why is everybody looking so grumpy today? And eventually, if I really have that thought, I'll be able to own it and realize, oh, it's not all them, it's you. We work from the inside, and we filter from those thoughts, from that atmosphere, what we're seeing on the outside. So there is a universal or a frequency that we are vibrating at, that we then send out to the world, and we get to play with that. Now, when I'm in a good mood, when I'm prayed up and I go out into the world and I feel like I'm moving perfectly unified with that divine current of life, then everything looks different. right? There's a godly hue, almost an aura of light around things that allows me to see what's working instead of what's not working. And then it won't matter what direction I look into or what kind of people I bump into, because everything has a potential to demonstrate well-being and goodness in my experience and in my relationship with it. About 10 years ago, in the field of neuroscience, when they really started releasing prolific information on all the studies they had been doing, they came up with this idea that when we are unhappy, we extend an unhappy frequency. And here's where it gets connected to what I said to you a little bit earlier, Bradfords. When we are giving off an unhappy frequency, the part of our brain that is responsible for our sight, our vision, what we're looking at, and they name that as the visual cortex, that part of your brain cannot process information at the level that it normally would process information. And so the researchers say it's as though when we are unhappy or when we are highly stressed or feeling in a really chaotic experience or time in our life, that it's as though we are looking out and everything is fuzzy or they're static. So it reminds me of like you want to adjust on the old TVs with the rabbit ears, you want to like adjust it, or you want to try and tune your AM radio to get a clearer frequency and try and hear it better. Or like we've been battling lately with I don't know what, it must be me, huh? Maybe I'm just too excited and all the. Oh, I need more positive thought. Thank you. Thank you. Masterful tech man. Willie Nelson impersonator. Thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow once again. So researchers say that it makes your brain it's like working fuzzy, and that is why you go blank, like what happened when I went, what was the name of that song? And I heard people saying it over here, and both of them were looking at me like, trying to get there, right? We go blank under that stress position. So I know it's like looking for something important. You're looking for something and you can't find it, and then it turns out it was right in front of you. And they use that as the example, that it really is right in front of you, but your brain can't process it enough to see it. So I notice that in my own life, if I'm in a situation that creates stress for me, is often around technology. It's not a bad thing. I still live. I still survive in this modern world. But if I'm at the bank, one time I was at the bank and she says, "Oh, sure, we can help you with that problem, Mrs. Rice. Put your debit card in the little thing right there in the window, and now put in your PIN number." And suddenly, wham, your PIN number. You have no idea what your PIN number is. Well, thank you. I didn't think anybody was going to agree with me there for a minute. Is that weirdly my problem? But I go blank because I get that, that little fright, that fear in a moment. And so you can't think as in the same way that you would think. You're all right. You win, Rod. It's down? Why? Really? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, we'll talk about it later. So neuroscience shows us all these great things now that are prolifically published, but there also are some really easy answers. And what they suggest in the material I've been reading this week is that one of the fastest ways to turn your brain around when you're having one of those moments, so hang on to this, you might need it if I ask you another question later. The fastest way to turn your brain around, anybody want to guess? Yeah, I would say stop and breathe. That's, SPA. Stop, pause, breathe, and affirm something. It's gratitude. Faster than anything else, a moment of being thankful for something that just already exists perfectly in your life. will change your brain. It snaps your brain very quickly into being able to function. So being thankful helps us change our mind. If you feel like you're stuck, give thanks for something. But you have to be genuinely grateful to where you can feel that gratitude in your being. So this isn't a fake it till you make it, but the idea of focusing on something you can be grateful for is really valuable and helpful. So this comes from some of the studies that came out of Harvard, and they were looking at why is gratitude so powerful? And the bottom line is that gratitude, when we use it as a way for us to appreciate what we have, instead of, hoping things will get better or wishing things were different than they are, then you're really in the moment. And the bottom line, and this is their quote, gratitude helps people refocus on what is, on what they have, instead of what they lack. Wow, now when I put that together, gratitude, being grateful and genuinely feeling that gratitude in my being, now completely reverses whatever was going on in the brain. So the brain for a minute goes, I don't have that information, blank, stress. Right? Or if you're thankful for what you have, you are no longer coming from a place of lack or wanting, and you are and what you have is appreciation for something that's right in front of you. So look at your hands. Right now, look at your hands. And see if you can be grateful for your fingers. Don't be critical. Mine have more wrinkles than they used to. Don't be critical. Just look at your fingers. What do you appreciate about your fingers? Go ahead and call something out. They're flexible. I can move them. What else? Strength, I think I heard. I can do my work. I can be creative. What about feeling? Notice that you have a sense of touch in your fingers, and they can feel, and they can grasp. We have these beautiful opposable thumbs, and we can hold things, we can grasp things. They can scratch. You can scratch. Sometimes we like that, right? So yes, there's something magnificent. In fact, we could go on and on at just doing a gratitude exercise on how grateful we are for our hands. And it brings us in an absolute present moment experience. So when we are pondering something positive like that, when we are open to what's working well in our lives, if everything else seems like it's going to hell in a handbag, then look at your hands and begin to be grateful for something as common and everyday as the miraculous nature of this gift of hands that we have in our lives. And when we are open in that way, notice that then becomes an openness that makes us receptive to other good things that are happening in every moment. I was using the book that excited me this week in my own personal reading is a book by Pam Grout. Pam Grout is, you may recall, the woman who wrote E squared and E cubed, and Reverend Cheryl did a class on it, and a whole bunch of you took that class because she urges experimenting while you're reading. And she has a book also on gratitude, and the subtitle of that book is Shameless Gratitude and Unabashed Joy. Isn't that a good title? And here's a quote from her book. When we observe the world from a resonant field of gratitude, I love that resonance is like that feeling. When we observe the world from a resonant field of gratitude, when we use our attention to spot beauty, to gaze at wonder, we emit a frequency of love It is like oscillating joy. What a beautiful image that is. Think of the oscillating fan that's moving and blowing air at the same time. It's oscillating joy just everywhere. Joy is pouring out. That is the most powerful frequency on the planet, and it has the capability of radically uplifting this world. Gratitude has this radical power, this ability to uplift the world. Now, what's being said here is that when we look at the world with deep appreciation, when we look so that we can see deeply and feel and be grateful for the things that are out there that we can be grateful for, we are now looking beyond superficial appearances. We're not scratching the surface. We're beginning to dive deeper, as I said earlier, in that way that we start to see that the bees on the tree so that I can have oranges next season. That there's a connection of all of life. And that is the idea of oneness and wholeness. Then these are spiritual principles in this teaching. And when I see that and know that and remember these truths, and I truly believe it in such a way that I embody it in my being, I live and move and have my being in spirit itself. That's when things change. That's the all-new energy that we're looking at. That is when, in Pam Grout's words, she said, we are quite literally rewriting the energy field of the planet. That's what we do when we take time for spiritual practice. That's what we do every time we practice gratitude and change our mind and look at life from a different perspective. The actual practice of being grateful physically changes us from the inside out. And it's not complicated. And here's something really interesting. Even a small act of gratitude, if it's genuine, if you can really feel grateful for something within you, even a tiny practice of gratitude can shift and lift your life. For example, the Harvard studies show that they took experimental groups and they had some people in the group practicing with a gratitude journal. You've all heard it. Most of you have probably played in it. Maybe some of you still do it with great vigor and commitment. Every day you write down 2 or 3 or 5 things that you're grateful for. You could even just do it once a week on Sunday night before you close your eyes in slumber. Write down what went well last week. And don't get hung up in the things that all went wrong. Look for, if you have to, look at your hands and be grateful that they functioned for you all week, and that they cooked a beautiful meal that you enjoyed on Wednesday, and that they drove you to a destination you desired to go. There are so many ways you can do those small things. So they took half the people in the study, and they looked at keeping a journal or just writing down 2 or 3 things a day. And they took the other half of the group, I've never heard this study before, and they had them write a thank you letter once a week to someone they cared about and express gratitude, genuine gratitude as they were writing the letter. And so they gave them several weeks of the experiment, of the practice, the study, the time of the study, and then they revisited with all the people that participated. And what they found was that both groups had an extended experience of joy in their life, that something had changed within them that lasted, but that the group that simply wrote one thank you letter once a week, it lasted longer. So they're no longer doing the practice anymore. And up to 12 weeks after the study ended, those people were still testing very high on their happiness quotient. 12 weeks after the study ended. So it doesn't have to be a big commitment. Once a week, they took time to write a thank you note to somebody and share their appreciation of that person. Now, here's where it was unexpected. But then they realized that the impact of a thank you letter, a letter of appreciation, if also received in a genuine way, uplifted both the giver and the receiver. This is what we teach, my friends. It's the law of reciprocal action. You can't have one without the other. You can't just be given, and you can't just receive. You can't just take. We have to have that both, all of that, the way that life is always in motion between those two things is critical. And the researchers said that whether they were giving or receiving, gratitude released two crucial neurotransmitters that make us feel good from the inside out. When we practice gratitude intentionally over a long period of time, it becomes even more profound in the results. So instead of just thinking, let's make it a goal to start thanking. Just to find a way to be grateful for all kinds of things that maybe we have taken for granted. Because when we change our frequency, we change our world. And our theme in this particular spiritual center for 2024 is exactly that. Change your world. Those are words from a quotation of Dr. Ernest Holmes in that same book, This Thing Called You. Change your world. And this is an important topic. We're talking about changing our vibration, and we will see the world differently than when we're just walking around being grumpy pants all the time. And when we change the way we see the world is no longer what we thought it was. The poet, the artists, the musicians, the wisdom teachers through all eternity, the great philosophers, they have all intuited the same stuff, that the universe is drenched in the presence of God. And so the artist sees it and tries to copy it and tries to convey it so that we too might have something wake up within us, that we can see that beauty, that we can feel that presence. The songwriter does it through lyrics in a song. I mean, even old hippies like Willie Nelson write spiritual songs that then have deep meaning in some way. It's such an interesting process that we're always composing or creating, and we're always seeking to extend that truth of what we know and what we can feel, but we can't quite convince each other. That presence, that intelligence. We can have moments, though. Shakespeare said, "And this our life finds tongues in trees and books, running in brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything." God in everything. And Dr. Holmes had the very same expression in a message that he was speaking and was later transcribed. He said, "If you will think this stuff through," he's telling a group of people at a conference, "if you will think this stuff through, and we are here to study and think and to consider these things together, if you think these things through, you will expand your own spiritual awareness, and thereby you will impact the destiny of the human race." He spoke those words in the 1950s, and I feel the energy of them. It's an all-new energy that is being announced that comes around again every year fresh in the springtime. It is the creative power of thought. And so, I'm going to give you the 3 easy things you can take away from this message and use immediately in your life in terms of applying this idea of practicing gratitude. Write a thank you note. See if you can write a thank you note once a week. And here's the real interesting twist on this. The researchers said, you don't even have to write it or send it. You can compose it in your mind. Do you have those moments in your day where you just flash on somebody you haven't thought of in a long time, and you can feel love in your heart for that person? I love when those moments happen. And I always think, oh, I should call them. You don't even have to call them. Compose in your mind the words of a thank you note, a little love note that reminds them that you appreciate them. They will feel it. But more than that, it will change you in that moment. Number 2, count your blessings. This one's easy. Look at your hands. Look at your hands and just remember. And the researchers say that we want to be really specific as we're thinking about the sensations we feel in our body while we're looking at those hands, feeling it. Because just as the metaphysicians, we teach here in this philosophy, we teach that the involution is the inward feeling. It's when we feel it in that inward way that it can evolve outwardly into form. That's how things come into being. And number 3, mindfulness. Be mindful of the simple things. The things, again, that you might otherwise take for granted, like the warmth of the sun on a breezy day, the taste of a crisp apple that you just cut and it's all juicy and maybe the sound of I have bells by my back door. Every time I let the dog out, I hear they have a beautiful tinkling sound that makes my heart delight. Beautiful music. Seek to notice beauty in what is ordinary. So write a thank you note or have a thank you expression in your heart. Look at your hands and be grateful and be mindful of the common things. And I'd like to close this morning with one of my personal favorite quotes from Dr. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook, and this is where he says, "Daily, we must control all that denies the real. We must affirm the divine presence within us, and then, just as the mist disappears before the sun, so shall adversity melt before the shining radiance of our exalted thought." That's what I wanted to say today. Take a nice deep breath. A holy breath of life. Allow your attention to move from the intellect, dropping down into the heart, feeling the truths that have been spoken this day. Life is drenched with the presence. So we feel that presence of God as a deep and abiding love within us. We feel it as a tenderness, a point of comfort, a satisfaction in the way that we recognize what is here right now. So right in this room, in this sacred space, wherever we are listening from, Right here, we know that the full presence of God is. I feel and acknowledge that presence and the richness in the way that that divinity permeates absolutely everything and calls us to see again that interconnectedness of all of life. I feel the love of God within me, and I know it is that infinite presence. It is the activity of life. It is the intelligence and wisdom of the human body that fuels us and sources us. It breathes our lungs. And indeed, when we intend, it sees through our eyes these eternal truths. So wherever there is any appearance of anything that might ail us or distract us from the perfection and beauty of life, that in this moment with these words we are realigned to that sacred truth, the holiness of our being, the way that we can be Twitter-pated in the springtime, this way in which we can be grateful and appreciate this thing called life in the depth of its holiness. And so I know there are truths that are being revealed. There is this process of letting go of suffering and sacrifice that's allowing us to rise throughout this week, that we might step into a renewed Christ consciousness in such a way that we can know that we are led, we are guided, we are guarded, we are sourced and supplied by that power that is greater than we are. So we become vessels to receive. We open ourselves to be aware of that movement of grace, the givingness of God that is pouring and streaming into our lives. We allow that sense of love to uplift our souls and heal the dark spaces so that we can be aware again that everything we need is given, and it is given at the proper time, and that we are never alone, that always before us is this incredible truth, and life desires to reveal this truth through us and expresses our lives. So we say yes to God. We say yes to God when we allow that upliftment of our soul, and with tremendous gratitude and thankfulness, I simply release the words of this prayer into that dynamic law that always says yes. I let it be, and together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Oh, thank you, Bradford, of the beautiful, grateful song. So we are grateful for our lives. So now is the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives, the abundance of our community. So we are reminding everybody we're not passing around the offering plate. So we have drop boxes in the back of the room and also in Papke Hall. And Phil, I just want to let you know that I know I'm supposed to count today. I'm going to remind him that I knew what my job was today. But anyways, so it is now the time to, we're celebrating our abundance of our lives. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. And raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. And sing it with me. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Woo.
I just want to say next week for spiritual practice on Thursdays, I'm going to be doing something really special at 1:30 in the afternoon. So it'll be our Good Friday. It's what we would do instead. So I'm doing something special.
Thank you. Please come and join us. All right, so let's say our closing affirmation is together. Repeat after me. I am open to higher thought. I harness the energy and express life in a new way. And so it is.